You have like a Google or aerial view.
It's on your
Oh, is
Google
it?
Earth.
Oh, I didn't.
Google Earth is on there, on your main screen there. If you go home.
Yeah.
Hey, Craig. See Craig.
Hi.
Covenant Lake.
How are you reading on your real estate?
I'm not here, absolutely.
How you doing?
You're welcome, sir. I checked my card in with the person in charge. Thank you.
I'm sorry, that was me.
No, Mr. Gruder.
Heather, we're good?
Yes, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you very much. Well, good evening, everybody. Welcome to this public hearing that we're going to have this evening. Heather, can you please take the roll?
Marcy Reynolds,
Heather?
can you hear me?
Hey, Heather?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you now. Can you
Okay,
take the roll?
yep. Marcy Reynolds,
Present.
Robert Barley.
Here.
Walter List,
Here.
Craig Eckert,
Here.
Patricia Brill,
Here.
Matthew Borkowski, and James Gruner as chair.
Here. Thank you, Heather. I'm going to invite the board right now to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic and one nation. Thank you, everybody. So we have a public hearing that's being held before the Henrietta Planning Board today, Tuesday, July 18th, 2023 at 6 p.m. in the main meeting room, 475 Calkins Road, Henrietta, New York, 14467, to hear all persons with regard to the following application. It's number PB 334, it's Rivers Edge Townhomes for preliminary subdivision approval of a 226 lot subdivision of single-family townhomes located at 85 and 135 Lehigh Station Road in an industrial zoned district with a mixed-use employment overlay district. The public hearing is held so that you, the general public, can present your opinions to the Henrietta Planning Board regarding subdivision concerns such as trees, the lots themselves, open space, the infrastructure, utilities, sidewalks, and flood-prone areas. I ask who's here representing the applicant this evening?
Andrew Burns, Pastor Associates.
Good evening, Andrew.
Also with me tonight is Brian McKinnon representing East River Henrietta LLC, the applicant. We are here this evening seeking preliminary overall subdivision approval.
Can you pull the mic up a little bit closer to your,
And if you could repeat the name from East River,
Brian McKinnon,
McKinney,
McKinnon?
thank you.
Thank you.
sorry about that. We are here this evening seeking preliminary overall subdivision approval for the proposed Rivers Edge townhomes. As I'm sure you recall, this special use permit was in front of this board by referral of the town board back in May. Since then, the special use permit has been approved and we are now seeking preliminary subdivision approval. The project is located at 85 and 135 Lehigh Station Road and proposes 224 for sale townhomes across 58 buildings ranging from 2 to 4 units. The townhomes will be subdivided individually so that each unit has its own address and property. The remaining lands will belong to accompanying homeowners association, the HOA. The construction will consist of 3 individual phases. I know it's tough to see, but hopefully that got submitted and is available electronically. Each of which we plan to submit for final subdivision approval individually. This project was also in front of the Conservation Board on July 6th, in which comments were received. Since then, we have been working to incorporate their comments and have no concerns with meeting any of their conditions. We also received town comments yesterday afternoon regarding this application. While we were not able to revise the plans by today, we were able to review the comments and provide responses which have been distributed. Upon review, we identified no major concerns, but if the board would like, we'd be happy to review any of those comments or response letters. We've also received in our reviewing third-party comments from Stantec and Vanguard. And we've also begun coordination with RG&E, Monroe County DOT, Department of Health, Water Authority, and Pure Waters. With that, we're happy to answer any questions that the board may have.
Thank you very much, Andrew. At this point, I will ask if there are any residents either in the room or online that have any comments or questions. Nobody in the room here. Heather,
And I have no one online.
be online. Okay. I will run down the board real quick. Mr. Eckert, sir,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
you're welcome.
So can you enlighten, how many units overall?
224.
And that's 3 phases?
The 3 phases. Pardon? The first phase will be a plus or minus 68 townhome units, followed by the second phase of 51 and the final phase of 104.
Okay, so 224, you said?
Yeah, 224 total.
224 total.
Yep.
Okay. This is all planned for private drive? Is there a reason for that?
Not yet, open to discussions, I think. Okay.
So the problem with that is that every time we get a development of this and then the neighbors move in and they all say the road needs to be dedicated, we pay taxes. So I'm not sure that's what we get with a lot of other private developments similar to this. So we'll have to take a look at, we talked about that in the meeting earlier today.
Whomever is speaking in the back of the room, can you please grab the microphone on the table?
Oh,
Thank you.
that's Chris trying to speak. Can you hear Chris?
I cannot.
How's that, Heather? Is that better?
That's better. Thank you.
All right.
I'll be brief. So, yeah, so basically we do want to look into a possibility of dedicating the private drives. But obviously, I think we need a meeting to go over that to see if that's even feasible for you guys. But as Craig mentioned, we do have a lot of issues with these private drives, with the HOAs. And we'd like to maybe try something different to see if it works better.
The as far as the HOA, what is what are the amenities to the units for the HOA?
I believe at a minimum would be snow removal. I believe trash removal as well. And then lawn care.
Okay, I'm not seeing any sidewalks. I'm not seeing any other amenities to 224 units.
No,
We do have a sidewalks that loop around the entire, I don't think there's, okay.
So nothing in the road, buses are gonna come through here, pick up kids, and there's no place for them to walk? Okay,
Can I comment?
please.
We're the developer and NVR Ryan Homes is the home builder. This
What is
is,
your name?
I'm Brian McKinnon.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
Lago is not here tonight. He couldn't make it, but he's a representative of the home builder. The price point on these homes is around 279.9. So it's kind of a more of an entry level, if you will, more of an affordable opportunity for residents. And as a result, the amenities and the expenses associated with those lots are pared down to accommodate that price point. So Ryan has specifically acknowledged that there would be no sidewalks, private dedication of the road, HOA through the AG. There is a little dog park area and a little, I wouldn't call it a playground, but a place that if they wanted to put a jungle gym in or something like that, assuming the HOA wanted it. But we're reacting to Ryan as the home builder in terms of what they can afford to pay per lot in order to attract their buyer. Hence the reason that we've got the plan as it currently stands. So any change, Chris, if I could call you, if I could say, Chris, any change in a meeting we would have, I would have to have Lago at that meeting Because he
Absolutely.
would certainly have to understand that if the town requires us to make those changes, that would certainly be impactful on what we would have to do for him and what he would charge the resident for their ultimate home.
No, understood. Now, the site plans do show sidewalks along one side of the road for both roads.
They do?
No, I don't think so.
The plans that I'm looking at do.
Well, then there's no sidewalks. No sidewalks.
The first plan showed sidewalk, did you say?
The submitted plans did,
Okay.
but we will follow up.
Yeah, and again, if it was a dedicated road, not to go too much into detail, then we would be looking at least a sidewalk along the collector. So at least one of the roads, doesn't have to be necessarily on both, but that's a discussion that we can have afterwards.
Are there any elevations? I don't see any other architecturals or elevations presented.
We do have architectural renderings of the buildings. I did not bring them with me this evening. I believe they were included in the package, and if
They
they're
were.
not, we will certainly send them over.
No, I apologize. I don't see him here.
Yeah, I didn't see anything in the packet. Heather, can you comment? Do you know if you saw architecturals in the packet?
I'm taking a look right now. Give me one moment, please.
Thank you, Heather.
But they would have been the same ones presented back in May, but we can certainly get those back to you.
Yeah, I'm just trying to visualize what this is going to look like.
I have them. Hold on one second. Let me share my screen. It should be towards the end of your packets, folks. Of the application set, not your plan set.
Page 32
Oh, last page.
of the subdivision application set has a picture.
Got a front view. Okay, I can take a look at these. I mean, there's one small rendering of the front with some layouts.
Yeah,
It's not what I would call architectural elevations. I don't see anything north side, west side, east sides, that kind of thing, what we normally see for elevations.
Understood. We will follow up with the builder and see if they're
Okay.
able to produce.
So I just have some of the concerns of, packing this many units so tight onto a private drive with no amenities to an HOA that doesn't have a building on site. Nobody's there to pick up the phone. I don't know who's gonna, manage the issues and that kind of stuff. So those are my concerns, just with the overall design. Okay.
Thank you, Mr.
Mr.
Record.
Chairman.
Mrs. Brill, any comments or concerns during the public hearing?
I have none. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Barley,
So there'll be no clubhouse, there'll be no office on this premise?
No, none proposed.
Your name was Andrew?
That's correct.
Andrew, can you tell me what the height of the building might be?
The what?
The building, what height?
I believe, they're two-story buildings. But again, we would have to nail down an architectural elevation for me to confirm that. It'd be under 30 feet, but two-story with just a gable roof. We'll follow up with that information.
So you're thinking there'll be about 30 feet in height?
No, closer to 25, but no more than 30.
So I'm just looking at the Department of Building and Fire Prevention, saying the roads must be at least 26 feet wide to accommodate a ladder truck. They're below. They're less than 40 feet, so 25 feet definitely. Another question I had, bear with me. Well, let me just stick with that. Do we know how wide the roads are gonna be?
I believe we're proposing 24-foot wide roads with gutters.
So yeah, the fire code says 26 feet wide. All right, I have no other questions, Mr. Chairman.
okay, thank you. Mr. List, any comments during the public hearing?
Just in terms, just kind of echoing what Greg had said, I think a project this size to not have sidewalks is kind of alarming. And I don't see a lot of. Somebody comes, you want to visit, if you're having a party or something, there's not a lot of. I don't see an area where there's a lot of extra parking. Is it just on street side parking?
We do have, so there's two parkings, spots per unit with the garage and one in the driveway. We also have some overflow parking, but we are looking to increase that. That also recommendation came from the conservation board as well. So we'll be looking to add some off-street parking.
Going down by the electric substation, I don't see, is you plan on putting landscaping around that area for the people that have units that are?
Yeah, landscaping or retaining wall. We're still working
Retaining
with
wall?
with the cut fill. So
So the back side of these units, will that be a fence behind there? Or would it just be open to just the backside of each unit, is it a fenced in backyard or is it just open from a patio into an open area?
it won't be fenced in, but we are going back and forth with landscaping, potentially buffering the back of those properties. The conservation board made that recommendation as well.
And would the HOA encompass that landscaping issues with the entire?
Correct.
And who handles the HOA? Is it Ryan Holmes? Or is it another outside interest?
It has to be a third party, unrelated entity that would do all of the accounting and the management of the HOA, including all the maintenance of the property.
All right. And they'd be on file with the town, I would imagine, like the HOA that would handle this. So if there were issues from the homeowners.
I would think so, yeah. And then eventually, once the developer hands off the HOA to the homeowners, then the homeowners have their own board. And then they can elect to replace the management company if they so choose.
Okay.
Yep.
And I do notice in that engineering report from Passero Associates that it does say the project includes new roadways, sidewalks, trails, public water, sanitary sewers, et cetera. So it does mention sidewalks in this engineering report.
Correct. They were proposed initially.
Okay, that's from the initial. All right, that's all I have for right now, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. List. Joe, recognize Mrs. Reynolds.
I have no questions. at this
Very
time.
good.
Thank you.
Heather, anybody online yet?
Still no one at this time. Thank you.
Okay. And one last request of anybody in the audience care to make a statement or a comment? Okay, if there are no more comments regarding this application, I therefore close the public hearing. The planning board will now adjourn the public hearing of tonight's meeting. And we will move into our regular workshop meeting.
Mr. Chairman, can I make
Yes.
a suggestion?
Yes, Mr.
Since
Martin.
The our applicant was already up.
Yep.
Maybe we should switch Smugtown and River's Edge.
Actually, on the revised agenda, I think that that happened. Yeah, River's Edge is going to be our first item. Okay.
I apologize, Chris Martin. I did revise the chairman's agenda to reflect that. I did not reprint your copy. My bad.
Okay, Heather. I'll remember the last time I reviewed meeting minutes for you.
Okay, first item on the agenda this evening for us will be the approval of the minutes from the June 20th, 2023 meeting.
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Mrs. Brill. Let me find my right paper here. Where did it go? Oh. Do I have sufficient second, please?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Barley. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, say nay. Okay, we have the minutes. Thank you. Okay. And first application this evening is River Edge Townhomes, application PB 334. So gentlemen, don't have to have you redo your presentation, but I will go through the board members again and see if anything else, if they have any other questions or comments regarding the application. So Mr. Eckert, I'm sorry.
Pretty important.
Correct. So I'm sorry, it's a little quick sidebar with Mr. Mistrella.
Yes.
Regarding what we're approving in regards to the application.
It's PB 334. It's preliminary subdivision approval of a 226 lot subdivision of single family townhomes located at 85 and 135 Lehigh Station Road in an industrial zone district with a mixed use employment center overlay district.
So with the application stating sidewalks and nothing's on the plan,
Pardon me?
with the application stating sidewalks and trails. The application that is before us includes sidewalks, but the plans, apparently they're being removed. The plans, I guess I didn't pick up on it on the plans that I see compared to what Chris has, what we have digitally. And I think that's what Dan was making a comment. I don't know if you'd like to.
Okay, sure, Mr. Mistrella.
Well, even in the comments, there are several references to sidewalks in Chris's comments and in their responses. And if there aren't any sidewalks, I guess before you give preliminary approval, you should understand what it is you are or are not approving insofar as sidewalks are concerned, because I'm very confused at this point. I'm looking at, for instance, comment number 27, the proposed sidewalks located along Road B should be extended to Lehigh Station Road paved shoulders.
Sidewalk.
Also, we question the need for 2 sidewalks along Road B. Response: sidewalk has been extended as requested. That's not the only place sidewalks pop up in here. So I think you should know before you give preliminary approval, because preliminary approval is pretty important. You know, you want the final to pretty much conform to the preliminary. Are there going to be sidewalks or are there not going to be sidewalks? And I don't think it's at this stage that it's something that you can just leave to staff discussions after you give a preliminary approval. So
Thank you.
what I'm thinking is you should know, are there sidewalks or are there not sidewalks? What is the actual plan you are giving preliminary approval to?
Okay, well, thank you, Mr. Mistrella. So you've indicated on the drawings that we have that there will be no sidewalks, but you addressed them in the comments as if there were, correct? So
The submitted plans did have sidewalks.
it has sidewalks.
Yes, and after conversations with the applicant,
Can you
There-
talk louder into the mic? I'm so sorry. You have to be really close.
Yeah.
tonight.
no, the original plan, submitted plans absolutely had sidewalks, hence all the comments on the sidewalks. They did not show on the subdivision plan, and that was simply a drawing mistake.
But he's saying that there isn't any. So what is
Correct.
the real, what's real?
There would not be sidewalks included in our request of the board.
Will not be.
Will not be.
Okay,
To the extent that that's an issue, I respect that, but I can't commit to those because our customer, which is Ryan Homes, is not expecting them. Hence, the price point that they're trying to achieve for this home buyer is reflected in it being a private subdivision with an HOA in control of it with, I don't know if I would call it minimal amenities, because that would suggest that there's more to it, but it's very targeted to a home buyer that's in that 279.9 range. So I would respectfully request from the board to approve it without sidewalks. And if that's a problem, I respect that. We would withdraw our request. I would have to reconvene with Ryan Homes and we would have to come back in because I can't make that financial decision on behalf of our ownership group because it's a significant expense that Ryan and ourselves are not anticipating. So I apologize for any miscommunication or confusion.
thank you. So recognize Mrs. Brill.
Thank you. Mr. McKinnon, you just mentioned that the owner is not expecting them. So at what point did this change take place? And is he aware that they were there and they're no longer there?
They've never been there. It's a complete breakdown between Passero and other people that aren't here.
Okay, it needs to come back then. There's no
Yeah,
question.
I'm fine with that. And I respect that
Yeah.
position.
Okay. Yeah, the chair. So we want to see sidewalks, right?
I think we just want to see the application meet the plan. I think
And
there's,
have confidence in what is being presented to us.
Yeah, and if I may interject, typically if it's a private road, we have subdivisions like that that do not have sidewalks. If it's going to be a dedicated road, then we would want sidewalks along at least the collector road or what we would call the main road. But again, whether it's dedicated or private, that's something that we'll have to talk about after the meeting or in a separate meeting.
Okay.
If I could just add one comment, Chris, and that's not a developer decision, whether they're in or not. It comes from the home builder based on the target market that they're identifying for the likelihood that people will buy those homes. Hence what they're willing to pay per lot for us to put all that in. So
Sure.
I don't want the board to think that this is a developer-driven decision and I'm changing the rules of engagement in front of you. I'm not. It's entirely driven by the home builder and what that market is they're trying to appeal to and
Oh,
how they can
understood.
keep their costs in line to put that home affordable.
right, but to understand that the private drive still is built to the standards of the town. So there's no cost difference.
Well, with the sidewalks, there
Well,
would,
sidewalks, gutters,
He's got gutters, right? You
you know,
said,
there's,
yeah, I mean, the pavement composition is that of a town road.
Yeah.
correct, and we understand that.
Is that the intent?
The intent is to build it to town code specifications,
Okay.
for sure, but not have it dedicated, not have the sidewalks. Correct.
Yeah, understood.
There's no street, I'm sorry,
Yeah, no, understood.
there's no street lighting. They've got like a little lantern, you know what, at the end of your driveway that they provide. That
And
just
that's not
kind
a town requirement.
No, but I'm saying in lieu of what you might think is
Mhm.
street lighting,
Mhm.
their option is rather than have street lighting, they offer that little lantern at the end of the driveway as part of their package that for their home building.
So, Mr. McKinnon, I think at the beginning you explained why the decision was made for the HOA. Can you help me wrap my head around why an HOA as opposed to not? Me being a homeowner, I think that would be, I mean, 275,000 starting for a new home plus the HOA fees monthly. I'm just trying to understand what the benefit of that would be, why they're trying to drive going down that road.
I'd probably ask Ryan to answer that question because we're responding to them. We're not kind of setting the rules of engagement, if you know what I mean. So in fairness to that question, I think Ryan, we'll ask them to provide that answer to the board. I didn't have a seat at that table. They came to us with, here's what we'd like to build on that site.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
we don't have anybody from Ryan here.
Pardon me?
We don't have anybody from Ryan.
No, we don't, right?
Table.
Yep.
Do we have any idea of what the HOA pricing would be?
I do not. I
Okay.
don't know the answer to that question.
All right. So yeah, there's a lot of ambiguity in this plan. I wouldn't feel comfortable.
Was Ryan intended to be here this evening? Did you say that or no? Did they
Sir?
not? Did Ryan intend to be here this
Yeah,
evening? They-
Plago is the land development manager that
Plago.
could answer all of these
Yeah,
questions.
okay,
And he had a commitment that he couldn't avoid.
understood.
Yep.
Okay. Any other comments, Mr. List or Mrs. Reynolds at this point?
I just have one, I don't know if you can answer this or not, but this is a project that's in phases and these are all for sale homes, not rentals. Will those phases change the number of years that you're planning on building if the first phase homes are not sold? You know what I don't know if the first phase, they're still empty homes, are they going to move to the next phase or the second or third phase?
Okay, so it's entirely market driven.
Market driven.
And I was actually going to ask a question of the board, if you don't mind if I ask it now. When we do come back for hopefully final approval, I'd like the board to consider whether we could move through first phase to second phase to third phase, because if they have momentum and velocity in their sales, we may try to install that infrastructure into phase 2 and 3 to meet their demand. and not have to like kind of pump the brakes, and then they've got to pump the brakes. So there's a little bit of art and science to how we get things in the ground for them at a pace that isn't too fast, and then we're sitting, but at the same time, not too slow when they have a lot of momentum and home buyers, and then they got to wait for us to keep going, if you know what I mean. So I just put that out there because there is 3 phases, as Andy mentioned, but if things are going very well, we'd like to keep moving for them so that they can keep selling homes. So I'm not saying it'd be 1 phase, but
Right.
it could be kind of 1, 2, 3, you know what I mean?
No, that makes sense. Understood. Thank you.
Certainly break them up and.
Pardon me?
I guess that's a question for Chris, or just a comment in my head is you can approve 1 and 2 at the same time.
Yeah, so I can answer that question because we can work with you on this because there's a lot of different ways you can do it. You could always come in with, right now you're looking for preliminary subdivision approval. And let's just say, for sake of argument, you got it tonight. Then you could come back, after all the comments have been addressed and get final subdivision approval for the whole thing. And then you could break that down into phases. Problem with that is though, once you file the subdivision plat, that's for all the lots. And also it would be we would, approve all the infrastructure. So you would have to maybe put, I'll say all the infrastructure in. You could do like a sub phase or subsection 1, like a 1A, 1B, 1C type of thing. But again, the letter of credit would have to be for the entire thing. So there's a lot of upfront cost. Or what you could do is just kind of probably what you're proposing. You could do section 1, get final approval on it. And then, while you're doing the infrastructure for that, sales look good. You could come back, a couple months later with a final section 2. And which is, the next phase and then so on. Or you could combine section 2 and 3 as just one big section 2. So a lot of different ways to do it. We could certainly work with you on which is the best way. But again, like everything else, there's pluses and minuses. So.
And I'll just add to that too. I mean, as far as construction goes, RG&E won't even look at it until it's.
That's a great point, Craig, because that could be your long lead item. So sometimes there may be a benefit to putting in, a good portion of the utilities now to get the RG&E stuff in, which will take some time. But now that we've been talking about it, you have a road that you're going to have to put all the way down to East River Road, which is a big ticket item. So the question would be for that is, you could probably get away with putting some of the houses in section 1 without doing that. But once you cross a certain threshold, and I'm trying to remember how many lots that is.
It
It's
was
50, 30.
30 something for Forest View.
Once you do that, then you need a second means of egress.
Right.
And now you're going to put in a long road, which is a significant cost.
So thank you for that. The East River Road access was meant for fire. It was never meant for the residents to use.
Well, and that's a conversation that we need to have because, let me back up a little bit. For fire apparatus, right. But that would have to be a paved road in order for you to use that for the fire access, because it has to be plowed, maintained and all that good stuff. So once you get over that threshold, whether it's, let's just say it's 35 or 40 lots for sake of argument, once you get over that, then that road has to come in. Now, one thing that we are looking at, if we take dedication, if we talk about dedication, we would want that dedicated all the way to East River Road. And what that would provide is a good thoroughfare to maybe get some of the traffic off of East River Road or avoid some of the other intersections. I mean, like Lehigh and East River Road type of thing, because there are seeker mitigation fees as well for the East River Road corridor that'll have to be paid as well for part of this. So that's why I think we really need probably a more in-depth discussion on dedication versus non-dedication or private, because there's pros and cons to each. And like I said, we would like to see that more used for the residents, quite honestly.
See, now Ryan doesn't want it for that.
Yeah, and maybe that's a
They
conversation. that we-
believe, I'm not being objective. I'm
No,
just telling you,
understood.
they want to have a little boutique, 224 unit
Mhm.
home community. They don't want the through traffic from East River Road.
Yeah, you probably want to see it as a gated access.
Correct, crash.
And I think
bar.
from the town standpoint, correct me if I'm wrong, from the meeting that we had today, that we would like to see that open.
I thought that was a comment that the supervisor made to the developer.
To have that a open road?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't recall that, sir, at all.
Well,
Yeah,
and
I don't
that's,
recall that.
I'm going off.
I'm not saying
recollection.
he didn't, I don't recall that at all. It's never been the intent of Ryan Holmes to have that as an open thoroughfare.
Okay, so that,
Yeah, no.
that is my recollection, which could be mistaken. I go through 100 of these a week. So, but
Yeah.
that's my understanding, and that I thought was refreshed at our meeting today at 1 o'clock.
correct.
But
Because
that's-
the land will be, the land to the west is industrial.
Mhm.
So from Ryan Holmes' perspective, they don't want trucks and other vehicles to have the ability to come in off of east, across the south, cut up through their subdivision,
Yeah. that's
exit onto
understood.
Lehigh and head east. That's the last thing they want. So their understanding was we would provide the road as necessary for fire vehicles and emergency, but it would be a crash bar and would never be opened up other than to the industrial to, which is the remaining lot.
Okay, so that's just something else that we should have a clarification point on too. I
Perfect.
don't know if that was discussed in the SUP.
Yeah, I'm looking at the conditions right now and I don't see that specifically mentioned in
Okay.
it.
Another good reason to have a little bit of a powwow. Sorry, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you. Yeah, well, it seems like there's some work to be done here.
I would like to make a motion to table this so that we have someone back here represented from Ryan Holmes that can answer some of the more pertinent questions that we've been inquiring about.
Yeah,
clarification to
the application to the plans.
Do I have a second, please?
Second.
Mr. Barley, thank you. Any discussion? Mr. Mastrella, any comments from your chair, sir?
Nothing further.
Okay, Mr. Martin?
No, the only thing I like to mention is, after this meeting, if we can schedule, work with the administrative assistant for the supervisor or work with me, Andrew, and we'll try to set up a meeting with all parties so we can kind of iron out some of these issues as well. So that you have a good plan going forward. And then as far as, again, for the resubmittal, because we can put you on the agenda for the August meeting. And I don't know if we really need revised plans back then, but at least, something going forward so we know which direction you're going.
Appreciate that.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Keeping in the chair, the ayes have it. We have a tabled application. Thank you, gentlemen. We'll see you soon, okay?
Thanks.
Thank you, Pam.
Okay, next item this evening, application number 23-010, Smugtown Brewing Company for final site plan approval of a 7,847 square foot brewery and restaurant located within the existing plaza building at 2199 East Henrietta Road in a commercial B1 district with a mixed use redevelopment area overlay district. Gentlemen, welcome. When you're set up, we'll take your names, please.
Good evening, Alex Ammering, Costage Engineering agent for applicant for Smugtown. Thanks for having us. Obviously, before you for a first look for the site plan application. This is for the property located at 2199 East Henrietta Road, known as Town Center Plaza. The application includes the tenant fit out essentially of 8,000 square feet at the south end of the plaza. On the drawing here, you'll see north is to your right. So this is the south end of the building. In the underlying zoning district, there is a special use permit required. The owner appeared before the town board, I believe it was 2 months ago, and did obtain that. With me this evening, I'll add also Clint Batista, Enso Architects, Jason White with Frontier Communities, and Jason Fox, who's a partner and also the brewer in the project. So any of the architecture operation items, they can chime in and help with that.
May I jump in just a moment, please, and have you spell your last name for us, just for the record here?
Sure.
Thank you.
It's Alex Ammering, Ammering. Again, with Costage, offices 217 Lake Ave.
Thank you.
Thank you.
obviously the site plan itself, has minimal improvements, so I'll kind of focus on that. The building isn't getting expanded. There are a number of architectural elements that are getting, I would call enhanced. There are some canopies, some minor improvements to ingress and egress to the building. We have submitted both elevations and architectural renderings, so you can get a little taste of the color palette. I would call it the more substantial site plan item is obviously the outdoor seating. That is important to the function of the brewery and restaurant. That is shown kind of in the forefront of the renderings. It does need to be contained kind of with a perimeter hip wall, I would call it. We have received some comments that asked about materials. Right now, we would like to do a split wall or a split face CMU wall with kind of a cap on it. We have proposed quite a bit of landscape, not only for the aesthetics of, this project, but also kind of understanding the surroundings of the plaza also. With that being said, one of the other major site plan items, there was a perimeter driveway that kind of followed the outside of the building. It wraps the rear and also the south side. Its primary function is not really for, patrons, but more emergency access, deliveries, and that type of thing. As part of that, you'll see the property line actually extends around. There's some green space out there today. There's a few trees. So as part of that, we would be reconnecting that road into the existing shared driveway that kind of traverses a few of the different properties that have cross access. As I mentioned, landscape, we want to kind of create some buffering for people who would be sitting outside on the patio. In addition to the split face CMU wall, we're also going to be proposing, I believe it's a board on board privacy fence that would kind of cut off that west end of the patio. It would be essentially installed on top of the CMU wall, but provide some separation to the rear of the plaza in any properties to the west. The only lighting we're proposing at this point is anything that's required for emergency purposes. There will be some accent lighting under the canopy on the patio. Nothing that I would call site lighting. I'm sure of less interest to this board, but also important, we'll be making new sewer and water connections. I'm sure, as you saw in the comments from Monroe County, we'll be working with Monroe County Pure Waters, Monroe County Water Authority. Obviously, the town engineer on the sewer, as it's owned by the town. With the restaurant function, it will need a grease interceptor. We did receive yesterday, I believe it was, town engineering comments. We received comments from Stantec on the landscaping. We received a letter from the fire marshal and also the Monroe County referral. I don't want to go through those item by item, just understanding your time, but happy to talk about any of them. We're generally comfortable addressing them and working with town staff.
Great. Well, I'm excited to have this in town. This, it looks like it's going to be amazing. And what a nice addition to not only the town, but that plaza too. So, very well done. Okay, go through the board. I'll chair. We'll start with Mrs. Reynolds.
Thank you. Looks great. I have no additional questions. Looking forward to it.
Thank you, Mrs. Reynolds. Chair will recognize Mr. List.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I too am looking forward to this. It's gonna be a nice addition. Those doors in the front, those like, they look like kind of garage doors that would open up if you have entertainment. Is that the concept?
Yeah, I think it's a common
Yeah.
feature in breweries. You know, it creates more transparency. On a nice day, you can open it up. Just, I guess I would say flexibility.
And you addressed that concern that they had on the west side with the sound barrier when you have entertainment?
Is there a
was
question?
Comment about some kind of on the west side of the building, something,
Is that with the dumpster enclosure or is
Yep.
it?
you know, where when there is entertainment, just trying to think of what I saw. Yeah,
You can kind
Yeah,
of see it in the
right.
rear of the
Okay,
rendering.
yeah.
It would essentially tie right into the building.
Okay.
We don't want to wrap it, you know, around the south or the east sides because, you know, you want folks when they pull into the plaza to obviously identify, you know, where they're going, but
Mhm.
there's really no reason that there should be a view to the rear of the parcel there.
Will you mean maintaining your own landscaping, or it will be the responsibility of the plaza owner?
The project itself is, well, I should say the plaza owner is actually a partner. Correct.
Right.
So they obviously have a vested interest in maintaining it, so.
That's good.
No, I'm looking forward to it. Is it just the wine and beer license, or will it be a full licensed facility?
It's a brewer restaurant license.
It's a full license. You'll have spirits as well as wine and beer. Okay, thank you. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. List. The chair will recognize Mr. Barley.
Thank you, Mr.
You're
Chairman.
welcome.
Will the height of the building change at all? Of the plaza? No? How many employees are you thinking of having?
Sorry.
Employees? How many employees? 50 or so? No other questions?
Thank you, Mr. Barley. Chair will recognize Mrs. Brill.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, it looks absolutely beautiful. I love the outdoor seating area. I love the landscaping enhancements. That will be a huge benefit to that plaza. I'm grateful for it. And I must say, I was today many years old when I realized I've lived here my whole life that Rochester is known as Smugtown. I had to Google it and find out why. I never heard that. I won't
Henry Clune.
repeat the exact description, but it's interesting. Never knew that. What was the other thing I had? Can you gentlemen introduce yourselves and your relationship to the project?
All the way over to the owner of the plaza. My name is Carl Darrington. I'm here to help facilitate in the brewery. I also just happened to open up a gym right next to it. That I opened in California.
Oh, Brighton, what's it called?
It's called East Ave Barbell.
East of Barbell.
Yeah.
I just saw that.
And
Cool.
I'm Jason Fox, partner and brewer.
Awesome.
With Batista, the architect of the project.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. And I'll be waiting patiently.
One item I did skip over, we were obviously at the conservation board. Their comments, I think, echoed a lot of what you're saying. They liked the landscape. There was a few minor comments, I would call them, that we'll be addressing, so.
But do you plan on having any type of fire features out there in the patio area to extend the use?
In the winter time, we might have a couple small, just propane tank driven heaters outside.
Cool.
And possibly electric heaters on the.
Highly recommend.
Yeah.
That's all I got.
So, Mrs.
Thanks.
Brill, thank you. Mr. Eckert,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
you're welcome.
Yeah, so I echo the positive comments here. It's, and especially for a reuse of a building for a very useful venture here. This sounds great. I just want some clarification because I think that's what we're looking for here is just again to make sure that we are buffering any potential noise to the neighbors. So, and the only reason why I'm asking some of this over, because it is a little confusing, I think on the drawings, maybe you can help straighten me out here as to what exactly I'm looking at. Because on the renderings, we do have that half wall, which looks great. In this one here, view it outdoor patio, we see it a little softened with some conifers, right? But that's the half wall that you're proposing in the front on the east facade, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, is this an actual rendering of what we're going to be looking at, or is this kind of a blanket rendering that's common? Is this is gonna, you're proposing, okay, so then I guess what I'm confused on, this east elevation is kind of missing that half wall through it? The doors. That's okay, so, but for clarification, that half wall continues all the way over, and then that's the split face, and then you've got the fence on top of that, that I think goes to 7-2. Right. Okay, so what kind of tall fence on the dumpster enclosure?
I think we would try to map.
Okay, I think we look for 8 on, dumpster enclosures, but
Excuse me, I might have a gentleman come up and use the microphone to help us
Yeah,
out here.
I'm sorry. just so we can have this on record.
Yep.
Hey,
Howdy, hi. Craig, are you driving the computer right now?
Yep.
Can you go to the overall plan showing the floor plan?
is that on the civil set?
You can, if you zoom in there to the patio area, we'll be able to talk about it.
You could see the privacy fence
Here.
in the one rendering also. That's what's kind of in the background.
Yep, so this solid line is the split, the half wall,
Yep.
right? And then this with the door will also be the 7'2", the board batten on top. And then is this a dumpster or this is storage?
That's kind of an outdoor kitchen area.
So is that continued as the fence? So is that the same half wall with a 7'2"? Okay, outdoor kitchen. Okay, smokers and maybe, I got you. Okay,
Exactly.
all right. So that's good. So now we're also looking at a potential dumpster enclosure though.
Kind of
Over
where the
here?
cursor- Go closer to the building.
Go back here,
Nope, down.
south, west,
Right
east.
there, yeah, right in kind of outside that door
Okay,
or the gate.
okay.
Yeah.
So I guess that's the question too, that I think everybody else, this is going to be 7'2", this fence, the board and batten on top. Well, no, I'm okay with 7'2". I mean, that's okay. I mean, I'm 6'6" and I'm still not going to be able to see over. The music is the only thing, again, we're really looking for here. Oh, no, and that's okay. And I don't want to hinder that. I don't know what's a special use permit. I'm just trying to make sure we buffer whatever you do out there, because let's be honest, everybody wants this to be profitable. So I think the only thing we don't want to see is you having comments or complaints about the neighbors and there being any conflict going forward. So I'm just trying to make suggestions on that. And so my only then other suggestion, and I don't know if this is something that the Conservation Board didn't get a chance to go into their comments. My suggestion would be to take these plantings that are here and maybe augment them right off the back of that wall that way. I don't know if that's beneficial to you or not, or if that works there. It's just a suggestion. Okay. And again, I don't want to add any more because I think what you've got out there is going to look really good. Just wasn't sure if you wanted to help screen noise, anything else that might be going back in this direction and making a softscape past the fence, if that makes sense. So that's my only comment. Because everything else looks really good and I didn't see anything else that I was even able to make any dissertation to. So that is the rest of my comments. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Eckert.
Do we have to approve it before we propose we meet there?
Yes.
That'll be next year's meeting schedule. Yeah.
That's checking.
Can I put the ribbon cutting on my calendar? Are you guys elsewhere in the city now, or is this a new venture?
No, this is, I grew down at Meadow Street Dance.
Okay, cool.
I was over at
Oh. Bad. Still drive by there.
That not for us.
Mr.
Yeah.
Martin, anything from town staff?
I do. I have one question, and this was one of my comments. And also Kevin Wilson's our Director of Building and Fire Prevention. Craig, can you go to the site plan? So obviously there's the gym on the south side or the west side of the building. Where's the parking gonna be for that? I know it's not really part of this application. It's more a question for the plaza owner. But we just want to make sure that whoever's going to be using the gym in the back has adequate parking, or how do they get there from the main parking lot?
So that's a good question. Obviously, as a partner in the gym, I am happy to be involved in the brewery project because I've already spoken with Joel in my capacity with East Ave Barbell about getting parking there. It was one of the things that I noticed when I first looked at it that wasn't on here. And also I noticed it was a town comment. So unless I'm mistaken, it's one of the things that I think is going to get addressed as a part of the final plan revisions.
And that's fine. We just want to make sure that it does get addressed because we don't want, people parking in the fire lane either. So, as long as you can show either a way to get there from the main parking lot to the back or provide spaces back there, maybe in the island, we'd be okay with that.
That is one of the reasons why I want to take that road a little further away from the building, to create that fire lane further away, so that we can put some parking closer to the building for East Ave Barbell. And really get that traffic pattern away from where where the patio area is.
I think the gym itself, and correct me if I'm wrong, kind of came around very quickly, which is obviously exciting for the owner. At the time, the Smugtown thing was happening. We didn't have a great feel on if there was an additional parking need. But I don't see an issue adding those. We don't like to arbitrarily add parking without the need for it, just because of more impervious surface and stormwater. But now that we have a good pulse on, I think, what they need, we can get that on the drawing. So,
Or even if it was a sidewalk from the main parking lot to the back, but we just want to make sure that both businesses are successful.
mhm.
Oh, other than that, seeker, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Martin. Okay, seeker review indicates the action under consideration is an unlisted action as per section 617.7 C1 VIII. The Henrietta Planning Board, as lead agency, has determined that the proposed action described below will not have a significant effect on the environment and that a draft environmental impact statement will not be required. The action under consideration is a site plan application by Frontier Center LLC. It is an unlisted action and will not require a conditioned negative declaration. The purpose of this application is for final site plan approval of a 7,847 square foot brewery and restaurant located within the existing plaza building at 2199 East Henrietta Road in the commercial B1 district with a mixed use redevelopment overlay district. All relevant areas of environmental concern were identified. Evaluation and examination were carefully made in relation of the existing conditions versus the proposed site improvements. It has been determined that there will be no adverse environmental effect as a result of the proposed action. So I, James Gruner, therefore make the motion that we make a negative declaration and that the chairman be authorized to sign the statement of environmental significance. Do I have a second, please?
Second.
Craig. Mr. Eckert, thank you. Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. We have a seeker. The chair will entertain a motion.
Mr. Speaker, I move to approve site plan application number 23010.
Thank you, Mr. List. Do I have a second, please? I'm sorry,
Second.
Mr. Eckert, thank you. Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, say nay. The opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. The motion carries. Congratulations, gentlemen.
Thank you very much.
Welcome to Henrietta.
Thanks, guys.
What's your timeline for opening?
Well, it's coming in, the answer is as soon as possible. We're looking to get cracking out there soon. Luckily, as part of getting the gym space going, it's a big empty space in there right now, and it is pretty much ready to start saw cutting for underground. So Just about getting the permit, pulled and.
Great,
Should be okay. I'll take that out.
excellent.
Was this ever looked at for any other part of our town? This project?
Yeah.
That's what I thought. Okay. Right. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay, thank you,
Thank you
gentlemen.
for staying with us.
There you go.
Well, there was a lot of positive feedback when the first application came through. So people were asking you, hey, you know, what's going on? Is it going? Is it going? Is it going? And so it's be glad to give them an update.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Okay, our next application is 22012, the Evangelista Residence. This is for a final site plan reapproval for a single-family home located at what will be known as 5057 East Henrietta Road in a rural residential zone district. This project was originally approved on February 15th, 2022, but it did expire and we just need to reapprove for construction. Good evening.
Good evening.
Introduce
Tom,
yourself, please.
yep, I'm Tom Fitzgerald. I'm with MRB Group. I'm here representing Rocco Evangelista and Antonia Perillo. Pretty much this project was approved back in February of 2022. And we had a year to do construction, and I think due to the owner just not being able to submit the building permit and other miscellaneous things, we weren't able to begin construction. So we just have been delayed on that. For this, the site plan was approved and was signed with everyone. The only things that changed on the site plan was the in the right of way for doing some permit stuff for the DOT. Other than that, the county agencies from Monroe County Health Department and Water Authority have reviewed it and approved it, and DOT is good with everything else, and they're ready to issue the permit to do work in the right of way. And I think that's pretty much it. The only thing left aside from the site plan reapproval will be going to the zoning board to just do a reapproval for the zoning board being a rural district. But other than that, this is.
I'm sorry, you
Just
said go to the zoning board for what?
It's for a reapproval for,
Lot size, maybe?
yes, correct.
Lot size? Okay.
And I do believe we had back in February, it was reviewed for approval with conditions, and most of them were, or I think all of them were addressed from Chris.
Yeah, I think we either signed off on them or we were ready to sign off. So I think we were pretty close.
Okay.
So, yeah, so really it's just reapproval.
Okay. The chair will entertain a motion.
Let me,
Oh, Mr. Mistrella, yes.
you need a variance still from zoning board?
Yes, but we're scheduled for the August, I think it's August 2nd.
It was granted back originally, Dan, and then of course it lapsed.
Yeah, so you should just make your approval subject
Condition and,
the
Variance approval.
zoning variance. being
Okay.
approved.
thank you. We will entertain a motion.
Motion to approve pending the approval of the zoning variance.
Thank you, Mrs. Brill.
Second.
Mr. Barley, thank you. Discussion?
I'd like to make a discussion point. I mean, I voted against this project and I'm still going to do so. This is a swamp. Putting a septic system here with a house on this tiny little lot. I understand it has approval, but it just doesn't make sense to me. They dug a hole for the perk pits and they filled with water. And they're still filled with water. So I don't know how anything perks there. I don't know how this drains. They're 10 feet off. I don't know where the water goes. I guess the drainage plans have been reviewed so that the water is handled properly, because that was one of the comments before, but I didn't see that was addressed, so to speak.
And if I'm not understanding, Monroe County Health Department signed off on this.
Correct.
I get it. It's a discussion point and I'm making the comment, the drainage plan should have been reviewed carefully. The town's engineering runoff coming from the upstream should have been analyzed to determine how much water will be coming through the site. Water's coming through the site and heading back north right into the septic tank system. Chris, what I do, we get complaints all the time when houses go in and they're constantly flooded. And
Understood.
then people look to the town and go, why could you approve such a mess? And
Hmm.
this screams as the same kind of potential mess. So that is my discussion and my comment. I just don't see that a septic system on this house works well in this location. It's a swamp.
Thank you, Mr. Eckert.
Thank you.
Okay, I appreciate that. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Okay, the opinion chair, the ayes have it. The motion carries. All set. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Okay, motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Barley. At 7:05. Chris, how are we looking for next month?